Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances, Shashra Prabhupada. This is Preeti Vilasni Devidasi from Atlanta. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Preeti Vilasni Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving a beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else who would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna Indulekha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving a beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev. This is Chinmayi Vrajapriya Devi Dasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna Chinmayi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving a beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees on the call. This is Harita from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Harita Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you Mataji for joining and giving a beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna dear devotees, once again I welcome you all for joining this mid-morning session, Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. I would like to start by sharing a quote by Srila Prabhupada ji. Do your best to serve Krishna, and he will give you required intelligence to cope with disturbing situations. Letter to Jaya Govinda, September 15, 1967. Good morning, dear devotees. Once again, I welcome you all for joining this mid-morning session. Today, we are very fortunate to have His Grace Jayanand Gauranga Prabhuji. Prabhuji will be enlightening us on different topics of Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Shuddha, Devata, and Achintya Bhedabheda. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Jayanand Gauranga Prabhuji, we're very fortunate to have you on the call this morning. Thank you for giving us your valuable time and wonderful association this morning. Waiting eagerly to hear from you. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So, I again thank for this opportunity for me to do this seminar series on the major Vedanta philosophy. So, the first of this seminar series we did about Tattvavada on Madhvacharya. And then in the second of the seminar series, we did Vishishtadvaita on Sri Ramanujacharya. And last week, we did Achintya Bhedabheda, which is in the lineage of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but largely expounded by Sri Jiva Goswami. And today we will expand two other philosophies which are also available. One is that of Shankaracharya, which will be called as Kevala Dvaita and or Mayavada. And then we have Vallabhacharya. His commentary is available for Shuddha Advaita. And then at the end of the first half of the lesson, I'll give a brief summary of all these philosophies, and then we will do 6-table comparison between the major philosophies. Hopefully it is not confusing. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam virayet Nashtaprayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloki Bhakti Naishtiki Om Agnihana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalagaya Chakshurun Minatam Yena Tasmai Shri Guru Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasindubhye Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Thank you. You're able to see the slide and hear me well?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So the first philosophy that we are going to briefly cover here is the metaphysics of Kevala Dvaita, which is concomitant with Maya Vada. And there is a pictorial. It was mainly systematized by the first Shankaracharya, called as Adi Shankaracharya, who is none other than Lord Shiva. And this picture here depicts in a simple way what exactly it says. There is a simple word, a phrase for this to summarize this Kevala Dvaita, and that is called as Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahma Satyam means what is true is Brahman, that is spirit, and Jagan is world, is Mithya, which is illusory. So you have all there exists is an undifferentiated spirit called as Brahman. Okay, so the first point, tenet here is that there is Advaita, okay, that there is no duality and everything is Advaita, okay, so Advaita is established there, okay, and there are scriptural statements to support that. Sarvam Kalvedam Brahma, which clearly says that all there exists is just Brahman, okay, and then this Brahman is an absolute homogeneous spirit, okay, it is entirely homogeneous with complete absence of any variegatedness. This homogeneous Brahman, there is no part, there is no attribute, and there is nothing outside it. So the locus of the Brahman is all there exists is just an undifferentiated spirit with no parts, no attributes, and nothing beyond. And what is this Brahman? It is pure existence. Okay, it is an existence of consciousness and knowledge. So consciousness and knowledge are not attributes. That is the definition of Brahman. Okay, that is the definition of Brahman. And then without attributes and all, there is no, in the real transcendental sense, there is like absolute homogeneous Brahman, and that's all that exists. Okay, then in that transcendental sense, actually there is no matter. Okay, that is why it comes here, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, because there is no matter. So because of this, there is no, since all there exists is just an undifferentiated homogeneous spirit, there is no matter, creation, and all. So now comes the question, what is it that we are seeing? We are seeing matter, okay? And then we are seeing different souls of different living beings. If all there exists is just one undifferentiated spirit, then what is all these souls? So this, from a mundane perspective, okay, from a mundane perspective, there is an appearance of this world due to Maya, all because of Avidya. Avidya is ignorance. Okay, because of this Avidya, there is a Maya, but in an ultimate sense, even that Maya doesn't exist, because if there is Maya and if there is Brahman, the Advaita will collapse into Dvaita. Okay, because you will have Brahman and you have Maya. So from a mundane perspective, there is a Maya which creates all these different kinds of magical forms that we are seeing. We are seeing these, which is like somewhat superimposed on top of this Brahman. You have this Maya from a material perspective, from a mundane perspective. You have this Maya, which is what is showing us this world, different living beings, to see that I have a soul, you have a soul, they have a soul. So to see all these kinds of differentiations among souls, and then that there is matter, there is building, there is world, there is moon, there is sun. All these things are all different forms, magical forms created by this Maya from a mundane perspective. But however, from an esoteric perspective, all this doesn't exist. So there is no Maya in the first place at all. So initially it all looks like that because of Avidya, it is how it is, but ultimately there is no Maya at all. There is neither matter nor the Maya that is making all these different forms. So this is in a sense, in a sense, Kevala Dvaita. I just didn't put just as Kevala Dvaita because this Kevala Dvaita is concomitant with Mayavada, because both are together. It is not, Advaita does not go, this philosophy of Shankaracharya explanation is not just Kevala Dvaita, but it is concomitant with Mayavada, because it says that about this concept of Jagan Nitya, that the world is illusory. Let's go to the next one. Metaphysics of Dvaita. This is, in a sense, exactly opposite to that of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya says that everything is a homogeneous, undifferentiated spirit with no part, attribute, or anything beyond. Every aspect of Advaita, if you take and then if you do a knot, you will pretty much get Dvaita. Okay, of Tattva or Tattvavada is the popular way of saying that. And but I am just using the word Dvaita because it's a popular way to say that, and it is exactly opposite to that of Advaita anyway. So here again you have Pancha Bheda. Okay, so it first starts with the 5 differences. And what is the difference? Number one, that there is a difference between Ishvara, who is identified here as Hari, Narayana, or Vishnu. And this Narayana has primary attributes, okay, which you can take it as his conch shell disc, his color, his all the auspicious qualities, everything, the infinite auspicious qualities of Ishvara, they're all the primary attributes. Okay. And then you have soul, and all these individual souls being distinctly different, okay, as their reflective counterpart. Okay, even in the Western philosophies, we have these kind of things, as man is made in the mirror of the God. In the same way, you have like a reflective counterpart, where the soul is pretty much some kind of a reflection of Pratibimba, some kind of Pratibimba Amsa of the Ishvara, okay, of the Narayana or God. Ishvara means God. So you have Ishvara and then you have soul, okay, and so this is one Bheda. And the other is the difference between Ishvara and matter. So Ishvara again stays aloof from matter, okay. However, both the Jiva, the soul, and the matter are dependent on the Ishvara. They are dependent but aloof, okay. And then the soul amongst each other are also different from each other. That means that there will be souls who have better attributes than the other souls, okay. So the souls who have better attributes they are destined to go towards heavenly planetary systems. Those who are caught up in the mundane, in the mode of passion, are pretty much cycling in this world. And those who are have an inimical personality are eternally damned towards going towards a more hellish existence over time. And it is very hard to break the cycle. And then you have matter, which also is distinguished from each other. So that means like something which is very clean. Okay, let's say if there is clean water and then you have turbid water, they both are different. Okay, so clean water and turbid water are entirely different, and there is a distinction between matter. So there is matter which is clean, there is turbid matter which is superior, which is inferior. So everywhere there's distinction. Okay, between the only place where Madhvacharya does not place distinction is in the personality of Vishnu, where there alone every distinction is repugnant to the concept of Tattvavada. There alone there is no Bheda. For example, Vishnu, Narayana, Krishna, Rama, and all the Vishnu Tattva is exactly, there is absolute oneness there alone. That is the only place where there is absolute oneness. But outside the concept of Vishnu Tattva, there is absolute difference. So between the philosophy of Shankaracharya there is absolute non-difference, because all there is homogeneous spirit whole. And in Dvaita, or the Tattvavada of Madhvacharya, there is absolute difference among all that exists. Let's go to the next one, the Metaphysics of Vishishtadvaita. So the Vishishtadvaita is a philosophy which tries to bridge the Bheda and the Abheda using a kind of a logic. And it uses those points of the Shastra called as the Ghataka Shruti. And the emphasis is higher for the Abheda Shruti in Shankaracharya's commentaries. And the emphasis is higher for the Bheda Shruti. The Bheda Shruti, or where the differences in the Madhvacharya, everything else is interpreted according to that. And Vishishtadvaita is, the emphasis is greater on the Ghataka Shruti, but a lot of effort is made to prove that there is non-dualism. Okay, at the end, everything is one single Brahman intertwined, but it is intertwined in such a way that you have Chit, which is that which is conscious, which includes the Jiva souls, and then you have Achit, which is matter. So I put here as Jiva. Okay, so these are all individual living entities. Each of them are individual living entities as Jiva. And then you have matter, okay, which is Jada, and the Vishishtadvaita parlance is Achit. So you have Chit, you have Achit, and then you have Ishvara. Okay, so these three are like intertwined as three sticks intertwined with a rope. Okay, so they are, so there is some kind of a Bheda there, but they are intertwined and form an organistic whole. Okay, so they are like parts of the Brahman in a sense. Okay, so in fact, structural parts. So the Ishvara, okay, is what is Brahman? This entire thing is Brahman. All that exists together is called the Brahman. Okay, that is the Lord with all his attributes and modes. And what is the Lord? So what does it mean? The Lord with all his attributes and modes. So just as how we have a soul, our true identity is the soul, and then we have the body. In the same way, if you compare that with the Brahman, the soul of the Brahman is Vasudeva, okay, or Narayana, and the parlance is Paravasudeva. And this Narayana is just as the soul is the Narayana, the body of that Brahman comprises of the Chit and Achit, okay, matter and Jiva. So sum total of everything is Brahman. So this Ishvara, okay, so is the Lord, okay, it's the universal, okay, so it is so the Lord is like the universal soul of this entire pan-organistic body, okay, and this soul plus body together is called as the Brahman. Okay, so for this pan-organistic body, okay, so you have what is called as this Ishvara is also called as Parabrahman, okay, and he has innumerable primary attributes. What are the primary attributes? All the auspicious qualities, of the Lord, okay, of Lord Narayana, and including his personal features. He has a disc, conch shell, club, lotus flower. All these things are part of the primary attributes. And he's also present in this form as the soul of the universe. He is present in the transcendental form in Vaikuntha, but he's also present as Antaryami, okay, as the indwelling being in every living entity as the Antaryami. So he's both immanent and transcendent, and his consciousness is like spread throughout, okay, just as the soul is pervading throughout our body in terms of the consciousness, so this Ishvara is pervading in terms of the universe, like as Antaryami throughout in all existence. So the next is he also has secondary attributes, but these secondary attributes can be undifferentiated in an undifferentiated state or a differentiated state. The differentiated state is called creation. Okay, the differentiated state is called creation, and when the creation is when this undifferentiated thing differentiates, then you will be able to see what is called as creation, and then these secondary attributes or the secondary modes are called comprise the individual souls, and it comprises of matter. Okay, so what you have here is a pan-organistic body of the Brahman, which in turn comprises of the soul called as Narayana or Vasudeva, and then you have the body of that Brahman comprising of Jada and Jiva, Chit and Achit. Okay, so this is in essence Vishishtadvaita, okay, where, okay, I'll just leave it there. Let's move on to the next one called as Shuddha Advaita. So the Shuddha Advaita is in the lineage of Vishnu Swami, And however, the commentary is not, the commentary of Vishnu Swami is not available. And therefore, the recent commentary has been written by Vallabhacharya about 500 years ago. And you can find his name in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in a couple of places in the Madhya Leela and as well as in the Antya Leela. Mahaprabhu met with him in Varanasi, in the river, in the banks of the river by the by Prayag. There he met, and then later in Jagannath temple also. Those events are there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if you can, the Vallabhacharya, so he wrote Bhashya, okay, the Vallabha Bhashya for the Vedanta Sutra commentary. And the interpretation there is called as Shuddha Advaita. That means pure non-dualism. This is in contrast to the other Shankaracharya. So let's see what is this Shuddha Advaita? So this Brahman, unlike the Shankaracharya's Brahman, which is an undifferentiated whole spirit, this Brahman here is Krishna. Okay, and that there is absolute non-difference. So there is an absolute non-difference in this Brahman with infinite auspicious attributes, Kalyana Guna. Okay, there is infinite auspicious guna, means attributes for this Brahman, but it is everything is a composite. That is the definition of Brahman. So it is all Advaya. Okay, so in a sense, it is qualified with the attributes, and it is non-qualified. So there you can see some kind of a difference where it is tending towards Bheda and Abheda there, but he still calls it as complete Abheda. Okay, and then you have, and what is the nature of this? The nature of this Brahman is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Okay, and in the transcendental real sense, there is really no attributes at all. So, and what is then how do you identify matter and jiva? So matter and jiva are identical Brahman, because all you have is this whole this non-dual Brahman, whom he is identifying it as Krishna. Okay, and then you have, what will be creation here? Creation are just suddenly for the sport of this Brahman, okay, Krishna, when he wants to enjoy. Okay, so from the sea, which is, if you compare this whole thing to an ocean, and then you have some waves that come to the shore, and then they go out. Okay, but there is no shore. But when you have waves come in and waves go out, and when the waves come, it is called creation, and the waves go back into the ocean, it is called dissolution or destruction. So in the same way, or you can compare this Brahman to coils of a snake. Okay, so you have the snake is a homogeneous, non-dual one entity, but then it coils. So the various coils, based on the pleasure of that snake, it coils. Just because there is coil, it looks like as though there is creation, but ultimately everything goes back into that homogeneous whole. So unlike Shankara, that means that all this world is just part, it is just completely identified with Brahman. So there is no Maya. So there is no Mayavada and all. There is no Mayavada because both matter and soul are identical with Brahman, and just for the play of the sporting activity of Krishna or Brahman, you have suddenly these souls and matter, they just come like ocean, or they just coil like a snake, and then the snake straightens. Okay, when the snake is all straight, it just looks like an homogeneous whole, but then when it coils, it looks like there is some creation. Okay, so this is called as Shuddha Advaita. And all of this has some, we will reconcile it later, that this is Achintya Bhedabheda. Okay, so Achintya Bhedabheda, the term was used, Achintya Bhedabheda, the exact words were used in the Sarva Sambhadini commentary of the Shatsandarbha by Jiva Goswami. However, it is directly what is being put forth by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he explained it, and it is mentioned in various places in Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you refer to the previous lecture 3, you can see different places in Chaitanya Charitamrita where the word Achintya, Bheda, Abheda occurs. And in the previous lecture, you can also see the places in the Sarva Sambhadini, Paramatma Sandarbha, when he is writing the commentary for that part, 76, 78, Anucheda. There you can see the definition of Achintya Bhedabheda as well. And even in the Krishna Sandarbha, there the Sarva Sambhadini, in different places, you can also see about Achintya Bhedabheda. So Brahman, okay, here it refers to Krishna as the supreme Parabrahman, okay, as the supreme spirit, and the individual soul is of the same nature as the Krishna. Okay, so that means in a sense, all that exists is Brahman. So it clearly directly translates that sentence, Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. So it translates the thing, Aham Brahmasmi. Everything is, you can translate it as it is. I am Brahman because you are the same Brahman. So all that exists is Brahman. So if you see the top panel here, I've differentiated this into two because there is a transcendental view and then there is a mundane view. The top panel here shows the transcendental view. The bottom panel here shows the mundane view. In the top panel, all there exists is Brahman. Okay, and that itself has the Bheda aspect and an Abheda aspect. So the bottom panel shows under illusion. Okay, under illusion, the matter appears dual. Okay, but in the transcendental perspective, the Advaita is also maintained, but in reality, with both oneness and difference. Okay, so you have an absolute oneness because all there exists is just a composite Brahman. However, at the same time, there is absolute difference. There is an absolute difference between the individual spiritual spirit entities who are all in service of Krishna, and matter is very interesting here too, because in the absolute sense, matter transforms itself into spirit. And this is called as a transformation of the energy. The material energy transforms into spiritual energy. Okay, so transforms into spiritual energy because Krishna is all spirit, and therefore anything to be in contact with Krishna, matter cannot be in contact with Krishna. So the matter transforms into spirit and are in service of Krishna. So whether it's the individual soul or the individual soul can be in contact with this superior energy, okay, which is the spiritual energy, or the individual soul can be in contact with the material energy. The bottom panel shows the material energy when the individual soul is under the purview of the material energy. The top panel shows the individual soul under the control of the spiritual energy. Okay, so you have the higher energy, the lower energy. So the higher energy is the top panel, the lower energy, the material energy is the lower panel. So when it's in contact with the higher energy, the souls and the matter, they're all of the higher kind. The matter also transforms to the higher spiritual energy, and they're all in the service of Krishna. So you have the Abheda aspect that everything is spirit, okay, that you are absolutely one with Krishna in terms of that everybody is spirit, and at the same time, every soul is absolutely different from Krishna amongst each other, between matter and so-called matter, because now it is all spirit. Matter as spirit, everything is absolutely different as well. So if you see the individual soul, the Abheda aspect is same Brahman, okay, same nature, okay. So Aham Brahmasmi, it holds the you don't have to interpret that that Vakya at all. And then you have Bheda aspect, and the Bheda aspect says that everyone is distinct spiritual forms of Krishna and are absolutely always different from Krishna. And then these entities, whether it is the soul is a Shakti, okay, and what kind of such Shakti? It is called Tatashta Shakti. They are marginal energy. They're called marginal energy because they can be under the control, they can be in the transcendental realm or under the material realm. Since they can go in this realm, in the transcendental realm or in the material realm, so it is called as they are in the border, okay, that is called Tatastha Shakti, and they are separated parts and parcel, okay, they are separated parts, and unlike Vishishtadvaita is that everything is an integral part of the Lord, but here they are separated parts and parcel. That is the Bheda aspect there. They are separated part and parcel of in terms of energy, and Krishna is the Shaktiman or the energetic God, and the soul and matter, okay, here matter transforms into spirit in the transcendental sense, and it remains as matter in the material sense. So there is a transformation of energy, and the energy transforms from material to spiritual and spiritual to material, vice versa, when it goes into this realm. Okay, so they are separated part and parcel, and the energetic Shaktiman is the Bhagavan, and he's the transcendental source. Okay, and he's the transcendental source, and as super soul, he also exists as Paramatma. Okay, and there is an imminent expansion, and he's even present in every atom. Okay, and that is why things even in atom they move, like electrons move and so on, because he's present everywhere. Andhantarastam, Paraman Chayantarastam. So Andhantarastam means he's there, but he's there in the universe, that is in the transcendental form, as well as Paramanu Chayantarastam. So in every atom, he's also there as the all expansive, okay, as Vasudeva. He's there everywhere. So this is Achintya Bhedabheda, but I think it will be more clear as I distinguish between all these things. Then I hope it becomes clear. So I'm going to do a comparative analysis. But for this comparative analysis, this runs for about 6 slides, these kind of comparisons. I'm going to take only 4 philosophies here. Okay, one is Kevala Dvaita Mayavada of Shankaracharya. And then you have Vishishtadvaita of Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya's Dvaita, and Acintya Bhedabheda. Okay, I put Jiva Goswami also there because he gave elaborate explanations for what is mentioned. And so I did not include Shuddha Advaita, okay, in this table because it just becomes a little confusing, and there are that's like a separate analysis there for it. And then another philosophy I'll just briefly mention is called as Dvaita Dvaita. Dvaita Dvaita is a philosophy based on the commentary of Sri Nimbarkacharya, and it is a commentary of the Vedanta Sutra called as the Vedanta Parijata Saurabha. And this commentary, Dvaita Dvaita, the reason I did not include it is so much alike Achintya Bhedabheda. It is the Bhedabheda and Dvaita Dvaita are very much alike. The only part that is different is Achintya. And the reason this is so Nimbarkacharya finds the Bheda and Abheda, okay, as very logical. Whereas many other philosophers, Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya, they find Bhedabheda not logical. And that is why they just completely disregarded Bhedabheda as any valid philosophy. And that is, and Jiva Goswami says the word Achintya is there in so many scriptures. And we have actually seen that references for the word Achintya in the previous lecture in the Kaivalya Upanishad. And in the Mandukya Upanishad, in many places, the Achintya is used as a definition. And we can see that. And so now let's go ahead and compare this. So Dvaita Dvaita, and in fact, Dvaita Dvaita, if you see, is somewhat like a natural, it doesn't require interpretations. And at the end of this table, we will see how this Kevala Dvaita, okay, requires interpretations of many of the Bheda and Ghataka Shruti. Vishishtadvaita has is focused mostly on the Ghataka Shruti, and Dvaita is focused, but still it perseveres to establish that non-dualism, okay, in spite of that. And then Dvaita, you will see how the focus is on Bheda, and the Abheda Shruti has to be really interpreted based on that. But Achintya Bhedabheda, you would find that there is actually no reason to interpret, because you can take all the Abheda Shruti as it is, all the Bheda Shruti as it is, and understand that these two are irreconcilable at all, in all circumstances, okay, because there is no logic that can link those two, okay. However, we try to make it logical as logical. At the end of the time, Bheda and Abheda at the same time just doesn't exist. You just cannot understand how both are existing at the same time. That is the beauty of Krishna. So let's start with the comparisons. Let's start number 1 about matter. Okay, Kevala Dvaita, from the actual point of view, there is no matter. Okay, it is unreal. Okay, but from a mundane perspective, those under avidya will find that matter is illusory, Maya. However, that Maya itself doesn't exist in the ultimate realm. Vishishtadvaita, the matter is the secondary differentiated mode of the Brahman. Okay, the Ishvara is Narayana. The primary attributes, he has all the conch, shell, disc, and so on. Okay, but he has secondary modes which comprise of all the jiva souls and matter, which are in the differentiated state. So they are it's a mode of Brahman. Okay, it's a mode of Brahman. In Dvaita, matter is real for air. Under all, there has never been a time when matter did not exist. It has always been there, and it is all real. Achintya Bhedabheda, again, you have a transcendental aspect, and then you have a mundane aspect. The transcendental aspect, again, you see that there is an Abheda and there is a Bheda, and both are irreconcilable. The Abheda is the matter is identical with Brahman, okay, absolutely identical with Brahman. And the Bheda aspect is that the matter transforms itself into spiritual energy, and they're all spiritual entities in service of Krishna. That is the Bheda aspect, and both exist simultaneously. The mundane view, the material view, is those living entities who do not have the vision to see the transcendental aspect. Those are under the cloud. So just as like how you have a cloud, above the cloud you're able to see the sun as it is, but below the cloud you're not able to see the Brahman. So in the same way, there is the material view is that there is illusory. Okay, but we will expand on it in the last slide, so don't get confused on it. The material view is that our perception of what we see of this matter is illusory, but there is a real perspective of the matter. Achintya Bhedabheda is a little more complicated philosophy than the others. Okay, and then but it is the natural meaning. Okay, if you understand it once, it is very easy to really understand. So Ishvara, we did with matter. Now let's go to Ishvara. Ishvara, the first thing in Kevala Advaita is there is no separate Ishvara. It's just identical with Brahman. Okay, so for Aham Brahmasmi, everybody can say that. Okay, so that means Tattvamasi, and you are the same as well. And so that is in the Kevala Advaita. And then Vishishtadvaita is he's the soul of the just as the soul of the entire existence. Okay, just as the jiva and the matter are the body, the Ishvara is the soul of that existence, and it's called Paravasudeva. In Dvaita, he is identified as a distinct real entity on whom all matter and jiva, everything are dependent, and he's called as Hari. In Achintya Bhedabheda, Ishvara is identified as Krishna. And I should say here that not just in Achintya Bhedabheda, in Dvaita as well as in Shuddha is identified as Krishna. Out of the 6 philosophies that exist, okay, 5 are entirely Vaishnavistic. Okay, so you have Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Advaita Dvaita, Shuddha Dvaita, Achintya Bhedabheda. All 5 out of the 6 are to explain the Brahma Sutra or the Upanishads. They are all Vaishnavic. There is only one which is non-denominational, which is that of Shankaracharya here, but even that tends towards Vaishnavism. Okay, but it does not tend towards, even though they might be having some traits which are taken in the other sects, but it is actually tending towards Vaishnavism. In fact, one can even progress in this ladder, just like you have the yoga ladder. There is a progress here from Kevala Advaita all the way up to Achintya Bhedabheda. There is a progress ladder in one sense. So next one, is there absolute oneness of all that exists? Kevala Advaita says yes, that there is absolute oneness. Vishishtadvaita says there is no absolute oneness, because that non-dual Brahman has primary attributes and secondary attributes and is qualified by infinite Kalyana Gunas or infinite auspicious attributes. So there is no absolute oneness at all. And Dvaita, of course, that is the exact opposite of absolute oneness, because there is absolute difference in everything that exists, except that of Vishnu Tattva. And then in Achintya Bhedabheda, there is absolute oneness, absolutely, and at the same time, there is absolute difference, and both exist simultaneously. And then, is there absolute difference among all that exists? Kevala Dvaita says no, there is no absolute difference. And then Vishishtadvaita again says that there is no absolute difference, okay, because everything is part of that composite Brahman. So there is no absolute difference in Vishishtadvaita as well. But in Dvaita, there is absolute difference under all circumstances. There is absolute difference between among matter, jiva, and Ishvara. Achintya Bhedabheda, there is absolute difference between Krishna and the living entities and matter. There is under no circumstance the living entity and matter can be Krishna. At the same time, everything is absolutely one with Krishna as well. So that is the Abheda part. Next, responsibilities of actions. What about the actions that different living entities do? So in the Mayavada, in the Shankaracharya's philosophy, in the actual sense, there are no actions, because all that Brahman does is it exists. Okay, all there is just existence. And what is existing? The consciousness and knowledge is the definition of Brahman, and it just exists. It just stays there. That's it. And from a mundane perspective, from those under Avidya, they see that there is illusory play, but that is disappears when one is under the ultimate sense of transcendental situation, okay, when one is properly situated. And then in Vishishtadvaita, the souls are modes of the Ishvara and the relationship. So now comes a question, a problem here, that one would say that if the different souls, okay, they're all part of the Lord, okay, structural part of the Lord, then our activities are all false of Vasudeva, right? The Narayana, because we are all just attributes, okay, secondary modes, and matter, we see so many faults. All the faults of matter and jiva ultimately become fault of the Ishvara. And therefore, Ramanujacharya brings a new concept here called as Apritik Siddhi. And to explain this, in a sense, all this leads towards Achintya Bhedabheda in a sense. Okay, so and there he says that the soul and the Ishvara is like the king, and the Jiva and matter are more like the subjects. So the Ishvara and so just as how the king and the subjects, the king lays out the law, and then the subjects, it is up to the subjects how to use it. That is the kind of a relationship which he says. But in a sense, there is, we will see, we'll expand it further later. Okay, so then in Dvaita of Madhvacharya, let's take the responsibility back. The Jiva takes full responsibility because the Jiva is entirely separated from the Ishvara. So Jiva takes full responsibility, whether the Jiva is going to hell, whether the Jiva is in the roaming in this material, exist in the same zone, or they're going towards heaven, or they become get liberated. Everything Jiva takes full responsibility there. And then Achintya Bhedabheda, again, you have a transcendental perspective. Those who are able to have, who have the chakshu, those who have the vision to see the spirit as it is. There is an Abheda aspect where the responsibility of action. So here there is one with Brahman. So this is Kaivalya. And then you have the Bheda aspect. The Bheda aspect is in that all the spiritual entities are in service of Krishna. Okay, and both exist simultaneously. And then it's not just Kaivalya, but everything is one with Krishna as spirit as well. Okay, so and then its mundane aspect is that Jiva takes responsibility under illusion, because Krishna's material energy is called Bahiranga Shakti, and under the Bahiranga Shakti, the Jiva takes responsibility. Okay, unless Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Bhraja, unless one surrenders to Krishna, until then the Jiva will face the consequences based on the karma performed. So it is sort of like, you see, there is a mixture of all this in the Achintya Bhedabheda in a sense. And then is Jiva part of the Brahman? Okay, so in Kevala Advaita, Jiva is not part of the Brahman because Jiva is the Brahman. Okay, Jiva is absolutely identical with the Brahman, and so is Ishvara. And in Vishishtadvaita, the Jiva is a secondary mode in, okay, and when secondary mode, whether it's an undifferentiated state or differentiated state, okay, differentiated state means that there is creation, and that this Jiva is an integral structural part of that Brahman, okay, integral structural part, which in turn leads to the question of, is the fault of the living entities become the fault of Ishvara and Brahman itself? And there are some other few things that need to be resolved there, which is a little more of a conversation, whether how does exactly Brahman itself transform like this when Brahman is unchangeable and not transformable. And then in Madhvacharya Dvaita, is Jiva part of the Brahman? No, they're absolutely different, but the Jiva is dependent. How exactly is the little, some clarity is again required. There also he uses certain methods to show, because there has to be some connection between Jiva and the Ishvara, because if the Jiva and Ishvara are entirely separate, then what happens in that situation is that the Jiva itself will get certain kind of powers which might become beyond the jurisdiction of that of the Ishvara. Okay, so there Madhvacharya again says there that it is still under the control of the Ishvara. Okay, but then if it is under the control of the Ishvara, then the question comes is that how is it that then they are entirely different? Okay, then it leads to the thing that the matter is under there is a material cause, and then but the Ishvara is the efficient overall cause. Now let's go to Achintya Bhedabheda. Here you have the Abheda part, where the Jiva is just identical with Brahman, satisfying those statements of Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Kalavedam Brahma, and so on. And then you have the Bheda part, where all the living entities are separated part and parcel. Okay, eternal separated part and parcel of Krishna. Okay. And not just part and parcel in terms of structural part, they are in terms of energies. Energy, as just as the Ishvara is Shakti, Shaktiman, in the same way, Jiva here, Jiva and matter are all Shakti. So, and then there is transformation of energy. And the energy and energetic are absolutely one, and they're absolutely different at all times. But the energies can transform amongst each other. So matter and spirit can transform between each other. Then you have the relationship between Jiva and Ishvara. In the case of the Kevala Advaita, there is absolute identity between Jiva and Ishvara. In the case of Vishishtadvaita, if the Ishvara is the soul, then the Jiva is the body of that Brahman. And the Jiva forms the integral part of that Brahman. Okay. And in Dvaita, they are transcendental. I'm using transcendental, the word transcendental, because they are spiritual, because Jiva is spirit. Transcendental reflected counterparts of Vishnu, called Pratibimba Amsa. Okay, they are Pratibimba Amsa of Vishnu. Okay, and Ishvara in Vishishtadvaita also refers to Vishnu only. And then in Achintya Bhedabheda, again, you have a transcendental aspect, a mundane aspect. In the transcendental aspect, you see which is the real aspect. That is what actually, that is the true vision. Okay, mundane is the colored vision. So in the transcendental vision, you have the Abheda, where everything exists as spirit, and then Bheda, where the same spiritual entities, they are in service of Krishna. So, okay, and then the mundane aspect is where the Jiva soul identifies with the body under the control of the material energy. Next one, relationship between matter and Ishvara. Okay, so if you take Kevala Dvaita, you have the transcendental aspect where there is no matter, of course. Okay, so that means there is no relation between matter and thing, but there is a mundane aspect where under the so-called Maya, which doesn't exist into the ultimate realm, everything appears illusory. In the Vishishtadvaita, matter forms modes of the Ishvara, and it's again like king and subjects. Okay, and in Dvaita, you have, this is the difference between Jiva and matter. So in the case of matter, they are conditioned reflected counterparts of Vishnu. They are also reflected counterparts, but they are conditioned. They are not in the spiritual sense, but matter exists as it is. In the Achintya Bhedabheda, you have again the transcendental aspect and a mundane aspect. In the transcendental aspect, in the Abheda, there is absolute oneness between matter and Krishna, because matter transforms as spirit in this realm. And then in Bheda, they're all spiritual. And if you have like a mountain, you have a river, the river as the spirit is entirely in service of Krishna for the pleasure of Krishna. The river exists only for the service. So there is absolute variegatedness in the spiritual domain. And then you have the mundane, which is under the control of the material. In the mundane aspect, the matter is under the control of the material energy called Durga, who herself is who has a Bheda and the Abheda aspect with Krishna. And then you have the concept of the energy of transformation. Here there is no energy transformation. If there was energy, then it would become Bheda. And then in Vishishtadvaita, the Ishvara stays the same. It is only the secondary modes, the body of the Brahman, that transforms. Okay, so the body of the Brahman, which comprises of the Jiva and the souls, they transform. But however, the Ishvara stays the same. And how exactly, that is not very clear there. Okay, so why is it that the Ishvara alone, how is that the Ishvara is fixed as it is with no transformation whatsoever, but then the secondary modes of that Ishvara alone transform? That is again a little clarity is there. But all of that, it leads to the concept of Achintya Bhedabheda, wherever you have that kind of a difficulty in understanding that. And then you have Dvaita. In Dvaita, you have that all are separate. Okay, that is all the material energy is separate, but both matter and soul are entirely dependent on Hari. In Achintya Bhedabheda, material energy transforms into spiritual and vice versa. That's how we are offering bhog to the deities, because there from a material life, it looks as matter, but then it transforms into spirit, and then Krishna again is able to accept it through, and Krishna himself, you see, there is, again, you can see, it is not just in terms of Jiva and Krishna that you see that kind of, that Achintya Bhedabheda. In Krishna itself, you see there's no difference between his eyes, mouth, hands, anything. There is no difference, because there is absolute oneness in Krishna. But at the same time, through his eyes, he can eat. Through his eyes, he can produce, he can create. So that means that there is this absolute difference that he can do. Different parts, they do various things, but at the same time, they're absolutely one. So next one, dependence of the world and Jiva on Ishvara. So there is no world or Jiva, there's no dependence in Kevala Dvaita of Shankaracharya. And then in Vishishtadvaita Ramanujacharya, yes, the secondary, they're after all modes of that Brahman, so they're dependent on Vishnu. And in Dvaita, they are dependent on Vishnu. In Achintya Bhedabheda, the Abheda aspect, everything is spirit. The Bheda aspect, yes, they are entirely dependent on Krishna. Next one, is the Lord immanent and transcendent? Okay, this concept of Lord does not exist in Kevala Dvaita. So there is no God. So that means, like, why would then the various followers of Shankaracharya then go to temple? Because that is done as an initial purificatory process. Like, as you climb the so-called mountain of this, their concept of knowledge, initially you just go and pray and all these things. And so it's better to go to a temple than to go to a movie theater, right? So if you go to a temple, there is a better chance that you will understand that you're spirit rather than just going to a movie theater. So in that sense, the temple has value. But in the ultimate sense, the temple doesn't have any value, nor that a person who never has been to a temple cannot understand that they are spirit. So that is the concept of Kevala Dvaita. In a sense, it is not theistic. And then Vishishtadvaita of Ramanujacharya. Again, in the immanent sense, he calls it as Antaryami. That is the term he uses. And then in the transcendental sense is Narayana, Vishnu, or Paravasudeva. And then in Dvaita, the Lord in the immanent is called as Paramatma. Okay, and Madhvacharya himself is a yogi. He is a Muni. Okay, a yogi, and of the topmost class yogi, Madhvacharya. And he himself is Vayu, Hanuman, Being, and is a topmost yogi. And so anything he says about Paramatma has such, he himself is a yogi there. So transcendent and the transcendental form in Vaikuntha is Narayana, Vishnu, or Hari. And Achintya Bhedabheda is a little more complex. In the immanent form, you will find him as Kshirodakasai Vishnu in the milk ocean, but he's the form who is there in Paramatma everywhere. But in the transcendental form, you have as Krishna completely aloof from all the material creation in the Goloka, which is like the capital of the Vaikuntha. And then you have the innumerable Vaikuntha lokas, which is beyond, which is entirely the spiritual domain, where you have various forms of Narayana. But in the segment of the of creation, I'm using the word transcendent here. You are in the creation. You have the Mahavishnu called as Karanodakasai Vishnu, and you have the Garbhodakasai Vishnu. For example, the Brahma Samhita says here, Andhantarastam, Paramanu, Chayantarastam, Andhantarastam. There, he's talking about this universe in the transcendental form. He's there as Andhantarastam, as Garbhodakasai Vishnu. But in the immanent form, he's there as Paramatma, as Kshirodakasai Vishnu. In another verse in Brahma Samhita, it says, Goloka Eva Nivasati. That means like there, Akila Atma Bhutaha. This is another place where the immanent and transcendent is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. Goloka Eva Nivasati. So that means in the transcendental form, exclusively Krishna, untouched by matter, is there in the Goloka. But Akila Atma Bhutaha. But he's also there as in every living entity. Okay, as Akila Atma Bhutaha. And so that is the immanent form. So next is who is Ishvara. So the concept of Lord doesn't exist in Advaita. Okay, so and then Vishishtadvaita is identified as Narayana, and in Dvaita he's identified as Narayana, but there is no distinction there between Hari, Narayana, Vishnu. In fact, any distinction between any of the forms of Vishnu Tattva is repugnant to the concept of Tattvavada for them. And then Acintya Bhedabheda, and just like that in the Nimbarka Sampradaya, Vallabhacharya of Shuddhadvaita, Nimbarkacharya Advaita Dvaita, they all identify with Krishna. If you see one, Nimbarka, Vallabha, our Lord Chaitanya, and then you have Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, all of them identify with Vishnu Tattva. In fact, 3 out of the 5 identify specifically the Brahman as Krishna. Okay, and then here in Advaita, that concept doesn't exist at all. So that means that the Vedanta can only be explained as a Vaishnava philosophy, or it can be non-dual, but for that you have to understand that Maya has to, the world, you have to put it as some kind of a superimposition based on some so-called avidya. And then there is what about the theology sense, the difference between Krishna and Vishnu? Okay, but in here, the concept of Krishna, Vishnu itself doesn't exist in Advaita. And then in Vishishtadvaita, they are same, but they're all considered as like avatar of Vishnu. And then there is absolute non-difference. So the theology doesn't go for about the eternal play of Krishna in Goloka. All those things are not very elaborated in the Vishishtadvaita. Okay, so Vishishtadvaita is the metaphysics. Okay, but here I'm not talking about Vishishtadvaita here. I'm actually talking about the theology associated with those who are practicing Vishishta, who are in the lineage of Vishishtadvaita. Okay, so you should distinguish. Vishishtadvaita is not the theology. Vishishtadvaita has metaphysics in it. Okay, but then the theology of the Sri Vaishnavas, this is how it is. Okay, and then in Madhvacharya, you have absolute non-difference between the Vishnu Tattvas. That is one place where there is no Bheda. But in Achintya Bhedabheda, okay, so here, again, the reason why I'm putting this in this thing is because even though it is metaphysics, but the theology pervades that metaphysics, because religion without philosophy becomes some kind of like a fanatic method. And the same way, if you have a philosophy without any of theology, then it just becomes a mental speculation. So I have to somehow integrate the theology with the metaphysics, because if you just say Brahman, Brahman, and if you don't identify who is the Brahman, then the philosophy will collapse as the mental speculation. Therefore, you have Achintya Bhedabheda, you have absolute non-difference, but at the same time, Krishna is the source of all expansions of Krishna. There is a prime, Bhagavatam 1.3.27. That's what it says, right? And Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu, that he is the greatest of all. Mattam Sarvam Prabhu, everything emanates from him. And then in the same way, everywhere in Bhagavatam, the identity of Krishna as the absolute is established. In the same way, the Govinda Bhashya clearly starts like that of the Baladeva Vidyabhushana, about the Govinda as the primordial personality of Godhead. And the Brahma Samhita confirms that even though all the Vishnu expansions are all from there, you get Lord Shiva, all the Devas, they're all coming, but even though they are identical in terms of the Abheda, but still there is something called as milk, and then there is yogurt. Okay, from milk you transform and get yogurt, but you cannot do it vice versa. Okay, and from one candle, from Deepa, one candle, you get the next candle and so on. So that is Achintya Bhedabheda. So there is Abheda, everybody is same, but at the same time they're all different. Even among the Vishnu Tattva, even among the body of Krishna, you will see that. The Bheda, everywhere you will see that. And then comparative, and then you see here concept of Vishnu as the soul of the universe. There is no concept at all of Lord at all in Shankaracharya's philosophy. And then Vishishtadvaita, yes, Vishnu is the soul of the entire creation. And the creation, all creation is the differentiated state of the modes of the Brahman, whereas the Vishnu is the soul. And in Dvaita, it is connected in such a sense that the soul is entirely dependent on the Lord. And then in Achintya Bhedabheda, you have in the concept of Vishnu, it's an expanded concept where you have Karana, the Vishnu who's lying in the Karana ocean called as the Mahavishnu, which is included in the Viraja Nadi, and is called the soul of the entire creation. And then you have the Garbhodakasai Vishnu. In each universe at the bottom, he is there as Lord Padmanabha. So here is called Mahavishnu. Karanodakasai Vishnu is called Mahavishnu. And then you have Garbhodakasai Vishnu, who is called as Padmanabha. And then you have Kshirodakasai Vishnu, who is in the milk ocean. Okay. And then there he's existing as a super soul. In three forms he lies. Okay. In all this, you can see that Krishna is aloof from all, but even there he expands his Vishnu. And is he identical with Vishnu? Yes. But there is a Bheda as well. And then method of acquiring knowledge. In Kevala Dvaita, in the transcendental mode, there is no method. There is no method at all, because in actual existence, there is no acquiring knowledge at all, because Brahman itself is knowledge. Okay, so but in the mundane, you can accept any method. Whatever method you want is convenient for you, you can accept. But as long as you finally realize that you are Brahman and that there is no matter, all these methods are all just ephemeral, transient tools in the mundane sense, which is ultimately voided when you realize that the superimposition of this Maya on the Brahman finally doesn't exist. And then Vishishtadvaita, you can see that there is Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shruti, everything is accepted. Dvaita, in the same way, everything is accepted. Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shruti, as long as all this doesn't contradict Shruti. Okay. And then you have Achintya Bhedabheda, where Shruti alone is accepted. And Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha has clearly stated there are several sections there to show that the Shruti is something. And even the Bhagavad Sandarbha, you can see that. Okay, and then the position of the Devas, actually there is no Devas at all. So you can see that many of the followers of Shankaracharya, they go to various temples of various Devas, but actually for them, ultimately neither Vishnu nor the Devas exist. And then Vishishtad means it's not like they don't exist, but that it is just as long as they realize that they're Brahman, they're well and good. And then in Vishishtadvaita, all the Devas are secondary modes of Vishnu, just as the Jiva souls. And in Dvaita, the Jivas, so they're all Jiva souls, but they have far more higher attributes than that of Jiva. So they're way more powerful. And hence, in his Madhvacharya, in his book called as the Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, okay, the first part, he's talking in the Ramayana Tatparya Nirnaya, there is a huge ladder that is said like, what is in ladder among the various Devas, even in fact, actually starting from Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi is at the top of the ladder. From there, you can see that from Lakshmi Devi, and then you can, from various Devas like Shiva, Vayu, Shiva, so on. There's like not only ranking, but how much lower each one is compared. And so we can identify like where we are. Okay. And even amongst ourselves, there would be differences. One of us would be different from the other, according to Madhvacharya. So there's a complete ranking system in terms of the Bheda. That is Madhvacharya's Bheda part. And in Achintya Bhedabheda, there is a transcendental part in the Abheda where everything is one with Brahman. So all the devas are identical with Krishna in that sense. And the Bheda aspect, they're all spiritual entities in service of Krishna. For example, Ganesha does his own service to Krishna. And then you have Durga Devi doing her own service to Krishna. So everybody is doing their own service to Krishna. And in the mundane perspective, it is the material energy called as the Bahiranga Shakti. Again, ultimately under the control of Krishna, even though they are entirely apart. So that means like whatever is happening to us based on our own karma, according to our, which you can see in your astrological chart, is all self-created. However, based on our own past things, that is what is getting destined. But then at the same time, everything is under the ultimate control of Krishna. I think this is my last slide. So is the world real? Okay, in Kevala Dvaita, the answer is no. But there is, in the ultimate sense, there is, in the material sense, it is Maya, but that Maya itself doesn't exist in the ultimate sense. So the world is real? No. In Vishishtadvaita, yes, because they're in fact part of the structural part of that Brahman. In Madhvacharya, yes, it's absolutely real, but dependent on Krishna. In Achintya Bhedabheda, in the transcendental sense, okay, the world, I shouldn't have put the word no here, but the world is actually spirit. Okay, so I would make the correction that I shouldn't say no. It is real in the sense that they're all spirit. Okay, our vision is wrong. Maybe I'll just make the correction. Just give me 1 second. I don't want this to be as a wrong slide there. So, yes, in as spiritual world. Are you able to see the slide? I made this correction. So in the transcendental sense, yes, there is the world exists as spiritual world. That we will, with the transcendental, if we have the chakshu to see that, the transcendental sense, we'll be able to see the Vaikuntha. But in the mundane sense, in the conditioned perception, okay, there is a world, but that world, our perception of this world is illusion. Okay, now the next question is the illusion real? Okay, in the Shankaracharya's philosophy, no illusion actually exists, because if there is illusion and there is Brahman, the Advaita will collapse into duality. In the mundane world, yes, there is so-called illusion, Maya, but it is only till you come to the proper state of understanding. And in Vishishtadvaita, there is no illusion at all. Everything is real, even dreams are real. And in Madhvacharya, again, there is no illusion at all. But in Achintya Bhedabheda, the illusion is real. The fact that we are under illusion is real, and that illusion is an external energy of Krishna, and that you can see from Bhagavatam 1.1.1. If you see the purport, very detailed purport, you can see the explanation there about the mirage and the desert, and how the concept that even though there is no water there, that means that we are thinking that there is some great satisfying matter there, okay, but there is no matter, but actually there is spirit there. However, the fact that we are experiencing the illusion is real. So that means that the illusion is real. So that is the distinction in Achintya Bhedabheda. Okay, and then is Krishna real? Okay, here there is absolute identity with Krishna with the Jiva in the Kevala Dvaita. In Vishishtadvaita, yes. Dvaita, yes. Achintya Bhedabheda, yes. Krishna is the source, and absolutely there is Ishvara, Parama, Krishna. And then identity of the Jiva. Okay, this is from a theological sense. The Jiva is identical with the Brahman in the Kevala Dvaita. In the Vishishtadvaita, they're eternal servants of Narayana. In Dvaita, eternal servants of, and here they're eternal servants of Krishna in the Achintya Bhedabheda. Identity of the matter. Okay, from a theological perspective, there is no matter in Advaita. In Vishishtadvaita, they're differentiated attributes of Narayana, and then, but they can also be an undifferentiated state. Okay, and then that is when they differentiate, it is called creation. And in Dvaita, their real substances depend on Krishna as conditioned counterparts of Vishnu. And then Achintya Bhedabheda, or their objects for Krishna's pleasure, and simply transform into spirit when viewed spiritually. Okay. When viewed materially, it looks like it is for the Jiva's pleasure. When viewed spiritually, it is for Krishna's pleasure. And then the destiny of souls. There is no destiny at all in Advaita, because all there exists is Brahman. Okay, so in Vishishtadvaita, there are different routes. Okay, so souls can take different routes. And one of the routes we studied in our Vishishtadvaita lecture in Seminar 2, which is called as Archadi Marga, where one is how the soul travels from here through pathway lined by the different stars and the planets. And we did even one of the songs by one of the Arvars called the Sul Visambani Mugil. We did that. And so, and how they cross the Virajanati and then they go to Vaikuntha. In Madhvacharya, so some of the souls, they eternally stay in material existence. Some are eternally damned. Or in course of time, they will go to hellish existence. Sorry for the spelling mistake here. Some go to heaven, those in mode of goodness, and some get liberated. Okay, so you have Nitya Baddha, Nitya Mukta, everything is there. But these things, you can, in a context, you can say that unless one comes in contact with Krishna consciousness, they will be circling in one of these things. Okay, so in a sense, what Madhvacharya is saying is okay. But then in Achintya Bhedabheda, under Krishna consciousness, one will use free will. Free will is used wisely in the service of Krishna, but under material energy, the karma will ensue. The karma of the living entity will ensue, and you cannot break the destiny. But whereas under Krishna consciousness, you have unlimited, you can pursue that limit. When you have unlimited Krishna consciousness, there is unlimited free, there is free will as well. Even in the conditioned, okay, so in that sense, let me stick with that. And then next one is creation. So you have the transcendental realm where there is no creation. Okay, and in the mundane forms, there is various forms of Maya, but then ultimately it doesn't exist. Vishishtadvaita, yes, creation is just differentiated from the modes of Brahman. And in Dvaita, yes, the Ishvara is the efficient cause, but not the material cause. So somehow he's disentangling it, but it cannot be completely disentangled from Brahman. Achintya Bhedabheda, in the transcendental sense, all are spiritual entities in the service of Krishna. In the mundane sense, 1/4 of the spiritual space is reserved for the material energy. That is the place where there is that illusion. Okay. And then Vaikuntha, the theological perspective, again, here is that in Kevala Dvaita, there is a homogeneous spirit with no separate Vaikuntha. And Vishishtadvaita, you have actually in two aspects, one in terms of the milk ocean and one in terms of the Vaikuntha called as the Paramapada. And then in Dvaita, you have the Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, with eternal differences, even among the eternally liberated souls, even among the Nitya Muktas, not only those who are going from this world to the thing, there is always a gradation there also that persists. For example, the service of Hanuman cannot be equated to that of, let's say, Sama, like Guha of Ramayana. Okay, they both are eternally different, and there is gradation there as well. They're all absolutely happy in whatever they're doing, but there is a gradation. And then Achintya Bhedabheda, you have the Abheda aspect where the entire existence is Vaikuntha. Okay, because Krishna exists everywhere, and wherever there's Krishna, that is place called Vaikuntha, and Krishna pervades everywhere, so entire existence is Vaikuntha. But the Bheda aspect is beyond the Karana. So again, there are two things here. So beyond the Karana ocean, okay, you have the Brahma Jyoti, okay, and Hiranmayena Patrena Satyas Pikitam Mukham Tatvam Pushan Darshana Satya Dharma Dashri. Then Krishna opens, there is a face that the true transcendentalist is able to see. And then you have the innumerable Vaikuntha planets where the eternal pastimes of the Lord are happening all the time. And then even within the material cosmos, the locus of the Vaikuntha is present in terms of access points as the Mahavishnu of the Karana ocean, and then the Garbhodaka ocean, and as the Lord Padmanabha, and as Kshirodaka Sai Vishnu in the Milk Ocean, where even the various devas go and pray at times of great difficulties. Thus ends this seminar series on the comparative Vedanta. I thank you. I hope it was not a waste of time for you. I offer my humble obeisances and thanks to Preeti Vilasai Mataji for asking me to do this. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Jayanand, Gaurang, Prabhuji. Thank you for a very, very beautiful class. Very beautiful, very nice PPT. Please do share the PPT with us. You quoted from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavata, Brahma Samhita. Absolutely very one beautiful class. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or realizations, please go ahead at this time.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking up this series and doing such a wonderful job on this. Today's class, you have figured out a lot of things. Am I audible?
Yes, Mataji. It
Okay.
just broke for a second.
So today's class would have definitely, the comparative tables would have definitely helped with a lot of clarification, doubts and others. Prabhu, I have some questions for some time.
Yeah, I cannot hear you, Mataji. It just broke.
Prabhu,
So Vijay Mataji is asking, she has some questions. Do you have time?
I have time. Yeah.
okay. Prabhu, the first one is, okay, I'll ask the Shuddha question at the end because we might have to spend some time, but let me move on with the rest.
Hmm.
In the Dvaita, so I just want some clarification on this. The identity of the Lord of Ishvara,
Hmm.
and you did mention it's Hari/Vishnu in some places. My question is, do they identify Lord Narayana like the Vishishtadvaitis do? Meaning, is there no difference in the way the Madhvas and the Sri Vaishnavas identify the Supreme Lord Hari as Narayana? That is the question.
Almost, Mataji. Almost very similar though. You have in Dvaita, it is very clearly mentioned there that there is absolute no difference between Lord Matsya, his attributes,
So
attributes, qualities, and Narayana. Everything's identical.
Correct. But for in the Sri Vaishnavas, the Narayana's incarnations are Matsya Kurma.
Correct. And they don't go any beyond it. There also, it is like implicitly understood. Implicitly understood that it is all identical.
Okay. But the Supreme is, though you had mentioned different names, they actually mean Narayan, right? That's
but they're all the same. Whether you say Krishna or whether you say Narayana, it refers to the same thing for them.
And then
it's just like, for example, if you see Sri Vaishnavas, they have the mantra which was propagated was Om Namo Narayana, and then you have and when they say, just as when we say something Krishna like that, they say Narayana for that. So in this way, it is just propagate. That is like it has become part of their system now. So, but ultimately Krishna and Narayana are the same for them. So
that way. So then ultimately it is the same even for them.
Correct.
Okay. So they are also similar to the Madhvas in that sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we are also the same, except that there is a difference as well.
Correct. Yeah. Then the other part about Dvaita is that when you were talking about Pratibamba Amsa, Jivas are dependent on the Lord. So, in one of the slides you were mentioning that how the Jivas are dependent on Krishna it is there in the Madhva Sampradaya. Jiva's dependence on Krishna.
Correct. Eternally dependent. Yeah,
they are eternally dependent, though they are completely different, though it is Dvaita, Jiva, Ishvara, completely different because of the Dvaita aspect. Dependence is there. My understanding, I want you to tell me if this is right. My understanding is because of the concept of pratibimba. So if there is an original thing, there is no question of reflection, right? So in that sense, the reflected is always dependent on the one that is reflecting, correct? So there is dependence.
Yeah,
because
there is dependence.
if that doesn't exist, then jivas don't exist.
What exists? Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That way. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let me just go on to the next one. Yeah, this you already answered. Absolute non-difference of incarnations and source in Dvaita. That was very interesting, I thought. But there are so many verses in Shastra that also talk about this. All these incarnations being in the spiritual world, like Padma Puran, for example. It's about it. So if Dvaita philosophy is ascribing to that, I thought that was very interesting and nice to know that absolute non-difference. Yeah. But still they identify Ishvara as in general Narayana or Hari, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, my question, I have one more question about the Dvaitas. This question was asked by another Mataji. I'm just sharing her question. The question is, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the South India Yatra, chapter 9 in the Madhya Leela, he encounters the Tattvavadis. There is that big section, right? At one point, he makes a statement. This is verse number 276, 277. He says, both the fruitive worker and the speculative philosopher are considered non-devotees. We are seeing both elements in your sampradaya. So we understand that the karma is there. I mean, like they are doing the fruitive worker stuff is there in Madhva Sampradaya practice. But we did not understand what was there in the Jnana section, that Jnana Kanda, what they are doing exactly, the Madhvas.
So this is in Madhvacharya's Dvaita Mataji. It is, unless you have absolute understanding of Dvaita, you cannot get liberation.
Oh.
That means those who are following Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, Achintya, Bhedabheda, Shuddha and all cannot get liberation.
I see. Okay.
So you have to have jnana is composite. Jnana only refers to Dvaita.
Okay.
So if you are understanding that there is this absolute difference between you and Krishna, then you will be able to get liberation. But then you have all this Abheda and all coming into play. That means your knowledge is not complete. Vaikuntha is meant for those who have complete knowledge. So that means that those who are half-baked in knowledge have no space in Vaikuntha, according to Tattvavada, right? So that means that if you're not initiated properly into Tattvavada, there is no scope in Vaikuntha. One will be roaming around in this planetary system. So that is the jnana.
Interesting. Thanks for the clarification, Prabhu. That really
there is no like what we say that that there is variety, because people, why there are these 4 sampradayas, because there is so much variety. Okay, so infinite varieties are there. 4 broad categorizations are these 4 sampradayas. So that means that there are people who are inherently want to serve Krishna in a certain way. Okay, they go in these 4 different sampradayas. So that means like anybody who is properly following these 4 sampradayas can go back to Vaikuntha. That is the perspective of Achintya Bhedabheda. Okay, even though they're not even though they are going through Vishishtadvaita, but in a sense, Mataji, if you carefully see this, the Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, Shuddhadvaita, even Advaita for a matter, if you just leave some of the peripheral matters out, they all pretty much are very same as Achintya Bhedabheda only.
Correct.
You just have to leave, here and there you have to leave the fringe elements out. But if you leave the fringe elements out, they're not, because they're all saying the same thing. It is just some of the words they're using are different, and the stress they're putting on certain things are different. Like even if Ramanujacharya is saying various things, but in a sense, actually, he's talking only Achintya Bhedabheda. But then he just stops at a certain realm, so it looks different. And then even if you see Advaita of Shankaracharya, he's all talking about Abheda, Abheda, Abheda everywhere. But all that needs to be done is a little variegatedness in that spirit. Okay, and to explain that, in fact, Shankaracharya himself introduces that concept of Achintya Bhedabheda in many places in his thing, except that his those who are reading his text don't give much importance to those things. But all these philosophies, in a less developed way, talk only Achintya Bhedabheda.
Correct. Yes, Prabhu. I get it. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Final question. I know this is about Shuddhadvaita. Oh, that very nice graphics I was telling you even the previous time. The way you presented Shuddhadvaita was very interesting, with those bubbles not separating out, but fringe, saying that everyone. So now, when this Jiva and Prakriti, right? What the other Siddhantas are doing, trying to talk about Shakti Parinama, transformation, or they're talking about Pratibimba. Something is there to logically explain how our relationship is somewhat, we are here in this material world. The material world is coming out of the Supreme Lord, and we are here, and then we have to go back to the spiritual world. There is some explanation, but what is the explanation for this? If everything is one and it's just popping up like, unseparated bubbles, then how is the soul even in the Prakriti? How did the soul even get entangled with matter? What is the explanation for all that?
So, Mataji, so here there is absolute non-difference. So that means that there is actually nothing called soul and all. So it is like the Brahman, who is Krishna, is just like moving around a bit. and he's moving around. It just looks like as though some, the souls and matter are all coming out in that movement. Okay. But actually everything, all that exists is just Krishna.
So so if everything is Krishna and Krishna is becoming matter, Krishna is becoming Jiva, then the differentiation, obvious difference is there between the Jiva and the Lord and the matter, right? It is inevitably different, right? But how
Okay. So in a sense, Mataji, this also is talking about Achintya Bhedabheda in a sense. But then if you see this thing, I'll give you a little more thing here. You see, you have Sat, Chit and Ananda, right? So Vallabhacharya is saying that if you obscure Chit and Ananda, then that Brahman looks like matter. That it is Sat, that means it is existing. And then if you just obscure Ananda, bliss, then it has Sat and Chit, and that is Jiva. And then if nothing is obscured, you have Sat, Chit and Ananda, then it is called as Brahman or Krishna. Okay, so that is what the Vallabhacharya is saying. But then the problem with that kind of a thing is, what is Sat? Sat means it's existing, but what is existing? It is actually Chit and Ananda that is existing. It is not like Sat means it's just, it is something is existing on its own. What is existing? It is the Chit and Ananda that is existing. So there are some problems in that way of explaining things. They're all trying to explain the same thing, but there are some problems, So, and then the second thing is, so that's the definition of matter and jiva there. So that means matter and jiva in this. So that means like Brahman with Chit and Ananda obscured appears like waves just for Krishna's pleasure. It just appears as waves here, and that means there is creation. Does it make sense, Mataji?
Yeah,
it's best to leave it as it is. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's what, because the others are at least comprehensible, like Vishishtadvaita or Dvaita or Achintya Bheda, and of course even Advaita for that matter is pretty straightforward, and you can comprehend at least with the but this was kind of I didn't understand still, but but anyhow, maybe it requires a separate study or something.
No, but there are when you do the merits and things that raise questions, you are taking all the relevant questions there. So that much is for sure. There are some questions about this. You cannot see, there is a reason why Shankaracharya had to involve Maya when he explained Advaita.
Correct.
But now you're saying that there is, just because there is so much opposition to Mayavada, you cannot just take out the Maya. I mean, it's hard to just take out the Maya absolutely out and say that all there is just Advaita. Right?
Yeah, correct.
That is the problem here.
Yeah. Because everyone has come up with something, right? Like to explain. Some are telling, okay, I'll add a Vishesha to this, and then others are telling, okay, I'll show it as a reference. So there are so many, but this didn't have any such explanation. So
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, but really amazing. And as always, thank you, Prabhu. We are saving these PPTs for a lifetime. So, I mean, recordings, they are really going to be helpful for all of us. Hare Krishna.
Gail Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This was definitely a dream seminar. Thank you so much for all of the tremendous brain power that you put into this. Just super simple thing is, one is the first slide you're talking about Kevala Dvaita, where everything is this one. Oh, go back.
This one, right?
No, the one that you just.
This is Kevala Dvaita.
No, Kevala Dvaita. Isn't there Kevala Dvaita?
Is that the screen? You're not seeing that screen? That's
No, not that one. Kevala, isn't it? Yeah, this one. Dvaita.
This one is Dvaita.
I said just Dvaita.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, when we say that, when it comes to Narayan, right? And this is just repetition. When it comes to Narayan, in this philosophy, it is only when it comes to Narayan that the let's say the different Vishnu tattva there is no difference
Yeah,
in this
correct.
philosophy, right?
Correct. Correct.
So now these orange circles at either end, those are his attributes, conch shell, flute, whatever.
Correct. Correct.
So my question here is, when it comes to his attributes, is there no difference there either between
Correct.
Narayan?
Correct.
Huh?
Everything
Okay.
about Vishnu is absolutely one. Just within Vishnu alone is absolutely one.
Okay, including his attributes.
Yeah. There is no difference there. Yeah.
Okay. And then did you say that, among all of these entities, Narayan, the soul, matter, were there, I don't know if I made this up, but were there 5 different types of differences?
Correct.
Okay, so when I was looking at this diagram, I think I wasn't able to keep count.
Okay. If you see
So-
here, if you see my crosses here, if
Yes.
you see this one, Narayan's soul is 1.
Yes,
Okay. And then
Yeah.
Narayana and matter is the 2nd.
yes,
And then among the souls is 3rd.
okay,
Among the matter is 4th.
uh-huh,
And between any soul and matter is the 5th.
okay. All right, good. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Then just one last question is, I'm trying to get more clarity about this concept of the material world being just one corner of Vaikuntha, right? So I'm trying to reconcile that concept with the fact that if you see things from Krishna's perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everything is spirit.
Correct.
I mean, and so from his perspective,
Everything is his, see, Krishna's perspective or the liberated eyes perspective.
yes,
You have the Abheda aspect where everything is spirit, and you have the Bheda aspect where every spiritual entity is in service of Krishna. You have both.
okay, so in the Bheda aspect, right?
Correct.
Then it is a fact, therefore, that the material world is just one corner. It's not just
No. That, see, okay, Mataji, it's like this, okay? So if you take all that exists is Brahman, spirit, or from a Abheda aspect. Is that okay?
no, I was talking.
No, I'm telling you all the 3. Okay, so number
okay.
1, all
Okay.
that exists is Brahman or spirit, okay, which is absolutely one with Krishna. That is point number 1. Number 2, all that exists is absolutely different from Krishna, and all the spiritual entities, like for example, the spiritual flute, the spiritual river, the spiritual mountain, the spiritual, the Gopa as the spirit, everybody is in service of Krishna, which is the Bheda aspect. Okay,
Yes.
so that means, and here also the Vaikuntha is spread everywhere. Like for example, when you have a spiritual master who is in the liberated state, he is, even though in our eyes we are seeing his material body, he is in the spiritual domain serving Krishna. So that means the Vaikuntha is all pervading. So this is the spiritual vision. From the mundane vision, 1/4 of this spiritual, all that exists.
Oh wait, Prabhu, I'm sorry. One before you get to that one.
Yeah.
From the Bheda perspective, where everything is different from Krishna, but in service to him, right?
Correct.
That includes matter and the mundane world, no?
Exactly. But that matter will convert to spirit while serving Krishna.
So is that the number 3, or did we get there yet?
No. That's all part of the Bheda. That's all in the spiritual thing. Okay. Now the number 2, there is no matter in the first part. In the transcendental part, there is no matter. The matter is all spirit. Spirit in service of Krishna. And then that is why I said trans is spiritual mountain. Okay, because for us mountain is matter, but in the Vaikuntha, mountain is a spirit, right?
Yes.
Spiritual mountain. Okay, in its variegated form. But from the mundane perspective, and Krishna has allocated that 1/4 of the spiritual domain for a different vision. And what is that vision? That is the mundane vision. Those who are not able to see the Vaikuntha, they are able to now see that mundane, that 1/4 of the thing. That is called as creation. So all those things, it is all created. So that means like our vision of this earth. Okay, so that is illusory, but that is still created. That illusion is still created. So 1/4 of that spiritual existence is created for that illusory vision.
Okay, so
It's called as creation.
okay, so the illusion you're saying is real, right?
The illusion is real. Yes, Bhagavatam
Okay,
says that. 1.1.1.
So when we say that when I see a rope and I think it's a snake,
Yes.
that illusion is real, even though
Yes.
the snake is not real.
Perfect.
But the illusion is real.
You got
Okay.
it. So that
Now,
means
so
everything is good. So that means like when we see this material world, okay, so we are seeing it as material world. So that is the illusion. But the fact that we are seeing the material world is real, because it is that
Yes.
illusion is real. Yeah. Go
okay,
ahead.
so yeah,
Good.
this I've already understood.
Mm.
What is giving me trouble is when it comes to seeing, when you say that Krishna has relegated 1/4 of Vaikuntha for this illusion. So when we say that, it sounds like something geographical.
Yeah. But you see here, Mataji, what it's referring to, see, from a transcendental perspective, there is no 1/4 and all. From a spiritual eyes, there is no portion that is reserved. Everything is Vaikuntha and everything is functioning as it is. But for the conditioned eyes, there is a portion where that's the prism, that illusion. They are in the video game, who are in that thing. But once they realize, when they wake up, samsara dava nalimbi the lokas, right? And then when they, or what I meant to say, vibhavari sesha aloka, if you see that the soul is asking to be broken up from both the songs. Yeah. And so that is what it is. So you have to wake up and see that you are not in that illusory vision, and that you're able to actually see Vaikuntha. So from a spiritual perspective, there is no 1/4 and all. But is there a domain for this illusion, for this reformation of that soul? Yes, that illusion is real. You got it, Mataji? I think you pretty much got it. So
No, because the part that continues to give me problem is, I know you say it's from a material perspective, or from somebody who is under illusion, right? There is a domain for this illusion. But if a person is under illusion, how could they even understand that there is a domain for their illusion? If they understood that, they wouldn't even be an illusion, it seems to me.
Yes, but that is theoretical knowledge, right? But actually realizing it is what is required. So for us to just know that we are, so all this today, what we did is theoretical understanding. But ultimately, will this lecture help in liberation? Perhaps not. Because ultimately, if we are not able to put this into practice and pursue it, then it will just remain as knowledge, right? So just knowing that won't be sufficient, right?
So when you say it's theoretical, you're saying that we have this understanding only because, I guess, maybe our acharyas are telling us like this.
Yeah, because the Shruti is saying so.
Because the Shruti is not because we have seen it or experienced it. Otherwise, because if we had experienced it, then we wouldn't be an illusion in the first place.
Exactly. So because if it is so it is not, because we have discounted Pratyaksha Anumana anyway. All we take is just Shruti. So the Shruti is saying this. Okay, Mataji, there is one example here too. Okay, so let's say that somebody is, I have not played video game, but I'm just imagining this is how it would be. But
I know, me neither.
Let's say that there is somebody's playing a video game and there are so many things happening in the video game. Okay, so that video game is the material, all the things going on in the material world. So for the person who is in the video game, okay, whoever is the character who's inside, he is already assumed, okay, the person who's playing it has assumed that his character is the one who is going around and moving in the video game, right? So However, when he wakes up, he understands that he's not the character in the video game, but he's actually somebody who is different outside the video game. Okay. And that is the individual soul in service of Krishna. Okay. But now the question comes, was there a video game? Yes, it existed in the illusory platform. As long as that soul was dovetailed with that character, there was that illusion of the video game was there. So that video game is that all the things that happened in the video game was real to the sense that illusion there was real, because that soul was playing that for all those times it was playing it. It assumed that it was the character in the video game. But then after many, many ages, by contact of some Vaishnava, merciful Vaishnava like Narada Muni, that soul was brought out of that character of that video game, and then realized that, and then for that, now that soul is out of the video game, does that video game have any more value to the soul? No, because that thing everything has disappeared. All those buildings in which maybe they are moving around in the video game, and all those things has disappeared, and now they're out of it. Everything is gone. Now they're able to see the Vaikuntha. But as long as you're in the video game, the illusion of video game exists.
Right. And so when you are in that video game, while you are under the illusion of that video game, that video game is called 1/4 of.
Correct. You got it. You got
it.
That is the platform created for reformation. Correct. Or enjoyment of that soul, or the so-called enjoyment of the soul. The soul wants to go play the video game. They want to go inside that thing. They don't want to be outside. They want to go inside and play that character.
But that video game, because it's existing, is it not
that video? See, all the things that are inside the video game are existing for that character who is playing there, and Krishna is able to see it though. Krishna is able to see what all is that soul is doing inside that illusion. And so Krishna, being so merciful, sometimes enters into that video game to correct that person and try to send them out. Acharyas are coming into that video game, and then, but they are all cognizant that all the things happening in the video game are not real.
Real mind bender. Yeah. But I guess I'm getting warmer. Thank you so much.
I think you summarized it all very correctly, Mataji. Very nicely summarized, and very nice questions as well. So thank you.
Thank you for sticking it out with me as usual.
Elaborate that in that way. I also got like a nice way to explain it if in the future if somebody asks. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Dr. Karpavalli, please go ahead. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, Prabhu, for this thing. Prabhu, the detailed explanation of all the Vedantas and everything. Now we are able to understand Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, everything. Little bit doubts are there. In that you explain Narayana with the soul and then matter, no? What does that matter means?
Matter means like, for example, Mataji, you have a computer in front of you, that is matter. If you're sitting on a chair, that is matter. The table is matter, like that. Earth is matter. Moon is. Like there also you have to make a distinction, because I don't want to go to Earth and Moon, because you know there is a personality of Moon called Somadeva. Okay, but that is different. So, but if you just look at let's say that you have various palaces in the Moon planet. Okay, so then they are that is matter, like that.
Nothing. That's Shruti, Prabhuji. Shruti only. Shruti, you told no one thing.
Shruti means all the Shastras, whatever is heard from Krishna, and then Krishna tells that to his the next set of followers, who could be Brahma, Shiva, Mahalakshmi, or the Kumaras. So in that way, it is coming down, and that is called Shruti.
Prabhuji, that another clarification. And now we are all following the Brahma Matva Gaudiya Parambara, no? This This Gaudiya, that's a Brahma, Matva. No, this Matva is this the Dvaita. What is that, Prabhuji?
Correct. Madhvacharya's Dvaita. So if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, where the Guru Parampara is listed, and there you can see that initially there is all in the transcendental realms, like Krishna instructing Brahma and all is outside the this thing. And then Madhvacharya, in the first lecture we saw, he went to Badrikashrama. There he went to Upper Badrikashrama in the Himalayan mountains, and there he directly met with Vyasadeva and learned from him. So that is how we are putting the Brahma there, Vyasadeva, then Madhvacharya. So we are not going into what happened in Dwapar Yuga and all. So we are going to Madhvacharya directly from Vyasadeva. We are accepting that Madhvacharya learned it all from Vyasadeva.
Brahma, Matva, Gaudiya, Parampara, like that, no, Prabhuji?
So it is Krishna. Then Krishna instructs Brahma, and then Brahma instructs Narada Muni. Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva instructs Madhvacharya. And then Madhvacharya, then it comes to his disciples like Padmanabha Tirtha, Narahari Tirtha, and so on. Then finally it comes to Lakshmi Pati Tirtha. There is, and then it comes to Madhavendra Puri, Ishwarapuri. So that's where the demarcation happens there. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes after Ishwarapuri Maharaj, and there he starts to synthesize all that is there and all that has been. Now the time has come. Now everything has to be synthesized, but still he has specifically glorified Madhvacharya by accepting the initiation in his sampradaya from Ishwarapuri. That is the service, because after all, Madhvacharya was entirely devoted his life for the supremacy of God, for the supremacy of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that credit by taking initiation from his sampradaya. But there also he does some kind of a unification, because if you see, for just for a societal perspective, he took initiation, his sannyasa initiation from Keshava Bharati, who's in the Shankaracharya lineage. There also he does synthesis. He does synthesis everywhere, and he's, as Godhead, he has brought everything together.
Okay. Prabhuji, another last one. That Vaikunta you told and you separate, no, Prabhuji. I want to just clarify, Miss. This Vaikunta is a Goloka, or what is, Prabhuji? Goloka is above this.
Goloka is, you can just view it as the capital of Vaikunta, something like that, or the center location. Like that, you can, if you look in Brahma Samhita, there are many verses, but I'm just, for ease of understanding, I'm just saying this. Like the central.
Brahma Samhita, when we learn that one, that Goloka is different, no, Prabhuji. It is all included, Prabhuji. This,
Goloka is part of Vaikuntha. Goloka is Krishna's planet. So outside Goloka Vrindavana,
in that 1,000 leaves of lotus, that only this Goloka.
You have Dwaraka, then you have outside that another planet called Ayodhya. So they're all like circumference coming out. And then you have a Narasimha Loka, you have a Loka for all the different the infinite Narayana expansions. Every of those planets have Mahalakshmi. They're all Vaikuntha Lokas. Goloka is synonymous with Vaikuntha, but it's like the capital. Like it's like saying, if you have is Delhi same as India, and or Delhi different from India. Delhi is part of India, but it is the capital city. It's
capital. Okay.
Like that. I mean, the word capital is not used in the Shruti, but I am just telling it for ease of understanding. But it is part of.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There's a question in the chat. Suksagri Mataji is asking, can you please give reference for what you just explained, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
What?
When you were speaking to Gail Mataji, I think she's referring to that.
No, I don't even remember now, Mataji. What was it?
Suksagri Mataji, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. I was just listening to your conversation with Gaurang Mataji. I was wondering, Prabhu, where you got the references for those, like you were saying that this is, like the whole concept of the quarter is an illusion, and it does not really exist. So I was just wondering if you can pass
So
on
you
references
can,
that will help me
you can see
understand.
it everywhere in Prabhupada's puppets, Mataji. You can see that Prabhupada has said in a lot of the Bhagavatam puppets that all there exists Vaikuntha. I'll refer you to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, there is in the Kalyana Kalpataru, so there is a series of things where he says that our home itself, we convert that to be as good as Vaikuntha. Anything dovetailed to Krishna is Vaikuntha, right? So in that, so that all there exists is Vaikuntha is there in, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he actually cites a thing about from Narada Muni, where he says that wherever Yatra Gayanti Krishna, or what is the thing? Tatra. So wherever there is the names of Krishna are being sung, there, that place Krishna resides. But where Krishna resides, that place is called Vaikuntha. So that means from a transcendental perspective, all there exists is Vaikuntha. So in essence, all that exists is the spiritual world. That you can see. So the sources you asked, it is mentioned in a number of places where Bhaktivinoda Thakur in, and then it is cited by Prabhupada in many, many purports. And but from a mundane vision, definitely that illusory, what our perception of the material world, which is illusion, that is also definitely there. So there is creation. The creation of that illusion is called as the material world. So.
Yes, Prabhuji, I understood what you just said, but I maybe, what you were discussing with Gaurangi Mataji, that you were saying, I don't know, you were mentioning that this is, that does not the material world, there's no one quarter.
No, I
it
never
just
said that,
is
Mataji.
for our understanding.
No,
It's
I never
not
said
there
that.
in a spiritual sense. I was wondering if there are references for those
Mataji,
statements.
I did not say that. I mentioned, I have written there that there is 1/4 of, where is that slide? Here, you see here, 1/4 of the spiritual space is reserved here, right? That is, I didn't say that it doesn't exist. Because we are there in that material world. So that means that that
You
we
said
are
from a
all
spiritual perspective, it does not exist. I think I heard that. Yeah.
From the spiritual perspective, they are
Yeah,
able
you said
to,
it does not exist, Prabhu.
so from the spiritual perspective, they're able to see things as it is. That's what it means. They're able to see things as it is, that all living entities matter, everything in service of Krishna. They're able to see it. That's all. And then that's what I meant there. When it says that that illusion is still real, Mataji. So
Sure, Prabhu. This makes sense to me. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gail Mataji, you had your hands up a few minutes ago. If you have any questions, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, no, that was a mistake. I didn't lower my hand, but yeah, but now that I have the mic, I will just to confirm what Prabhu you just said, that the from the spiritual perspective, this material world as seen as something that serves Krishna, and therefore, in that sense only, it is.
Yeah,
like
I'll give a simpler thing, Mataji. Like if you take a Uttama Adhikari, the Uttama Adhikari doesn't distinguish between, let's say that the Uttama Adhikari in the liberated state, okay, they are not able to see all this matter, that this entity is in a lower platform, that entity is in a higher platform. They are not able to see all these things. They are able to see the spiritual world, that everybody, they're able to see everybody as Vaishnavas in service of Krishna. But they're able to, because they're all the time, all they're able to see is Vaikuntha. Like, for example, Rupa Goswami, for him, the perception, they are able to see, they are in Vaikuntha all the time. So in that sense, but from a material perspective, there is a creation. We see all these dualities in that sense. But from the dualities, as soon as you say that 1/4 of the, even from a transcendental perspective, if you're saying that 1/4 of the world is full of dualities, the whole philosophy will collapse. There is no Achintya, Bhedabheda and all anymore, because you're talking about false within Brahman. So if you say that from a spiritual perspective, that 1/4 of the all the Brahman is all faulty, the whole Brahma Sutra will collapse.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Sorry, Prabhu, what do you mean it'll collapse? So I didn't understand that part, Prabhu.
For example, Mataji, the scriptures, like the Brahma Sutra, Mataji, you cannot say that there can be fault assigned to Brahman. If you say that one from a spiritual transcendental perspective, if you say that the world and all is the 1/4 of the material world, okay, in the thing, there's 1/4 of the material world is always as it is, as matter, that's how it is actually visioned even by the spiritual entities, then it means that there are faults attributed to the Brahman. Then if there are faults attributed to the Brahman, then that means that all the statements of the Brahma Sutra will not stand anymore. It will collapse. That's what I meant. So you have a mundane vision and you have the spiritual vision. It is not just Krishna who is able to see that everything is it's all the liberated souls, even those whom we are seeing in the liberated souls here, the Uttamadhikaris, they are also able to see everybody. They don't make distinctions between the Uttamadhikari, don't make distinctions between, okay, this entity is unfit for Krishna consciousness, that soul is fit for Krishna consciousness. That is also a big distinction here between what the Gaudiya, the Achintya, Bhedabheda, and the associated theology is extremely merciful. But we don't make any distinctions there. Even those who are in the so-called lowest platform of this material existence, they also have almost the same chance of going to Krishna as much as that of, let's say, a great Madhyamadhikari or anybody in service of Krishna, because all it requires is a contact of a devotee of Krishna. One contact of the devotee of Krishna will make the existence of that person fortunate. And therefore, from a material perspective, we are able to then we are in that game, okay, that illusory platform, we are able to see it. So there is, in that sense, I've written there that 1/4 of spiritual space is reserved for this material energy, for all this play to happen. But those with the proper chakshu, the eyes, they are able to see things as it is. But it comes as this, like, I'll give another example. Let's say that you have a tree, and that tree, you can see it from the material eyes. You're able to see that it may bear a fruit, let's say some berry, or let's say a peach. Okay, let's take a peach tree. So we are able to see the peach. And that peach, why we are able to see it as matter, as part of this 1/4 of that material creation, we are able to see it because we are seeing the tree in relationship to us, the peach tree in relationship to us. But as soon as it is the vision that tells you in which locus is that particular soul located. But if as soon as you see the peach tree, if you're able to see the peach tree in the service for Krishna, as that peach, the juice is meant for the pleasure of Krishna, the vision will change. Then you will see that tree as a spiritual entity in service of Krishna and not in relationship to you. That is the change in vision. So it is our vision that is making the difference. In what consciousness we are, that is why this is called as International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That conscious, it is not Krishna Bhakti, it is not Krishna devotional service, it is Krishna consciousness. Our consciousness have to be about Krishna. Then we'll be able to see in the transcendental platform.
Prabhu, I had a different question, kind of related, but I forgot to ask before. When we say that the material world is 1/4 of Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha is unlimited, right? So how does it make sense to talk about 1/4 of something unlimited?
In actual sense, it doesn't. In actual transcendental sense, there is no 1/4 and all. From a mundane perspective, there is a space there where all this illusion, where the individual souls are given that facility, okay, facility for them to enjoy, so-called enjoy, because they wanted it. They wanted to, because Krishna is not forcing anybody to do anything. So he has given that thing, so you want to go enjoy within the video game, go enjoy, but finally, and even in the video game, he himself is coming and taking part in it to pull. Let's forget the video game analogy. Let's take a dream analogy. Okay, the dream analogy. So various things are we are in a certain dream. Okay, and we are playing characters of various dreams. Did the dream exist? Did the dream happen? Yes. However, are the various things that happen in the dream real? No, because in the morning when you wake up, the tiger has still not bitten you. You're still coming. The tiger in the dream has still not bitten you, and you're coming back alive. So that means, but even in the dream, there is a way to wake up out of the dream state. And what is that? That is Krishna consciousness. At any time, even in the dream, if you think of Krishna, you can wake up out of the dream. The dream is the material existence.
Yeah, so therefore you cannot put, just as you cannot put physical boundaries around it.
Exactly. It is just a way of understanding, Mataji. It's a way of understanding the locus in the true sense. There is no 1/4 and all. There is, because it is absolutely one, and even in the Bheda aspect, there is nothing material in Brahman. So where is the question of one quarter? There is no 1/4.
Thank you so much for saying that.
That
was my problem when I was saying that I have a problem with, making this a geographical location.
Cannot be, because as soon as you say there is 1/4, that means you've broken Brahman. And the whole scripture Vedanta will collapse.
Yeah, right. So 1/4 just means
there is no 1/4, two quarter and all. There is no quarter. But that quarter is there in terms of a understanding of the space for that space for that
illusion to occur.
Illusion. Exactly. You got it.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. There's a very nice comment by Yashomati Mataji in the chat room. She's saying, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Very detailed summary. Very interesting to learn the difference between all sampradayas. Thank you so much for your efforts to make us understand. Comparison of Vedas, not sampradayas. Once again, I thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your valuable time and wonderful association this morning. Very nice question answer. And thank you for a very beautiful class. Looking forward to your wonderful association in the near future. Please do share the PPT with us. Dear devotees, if there are no more questions or realizations, I would like to pay my obeisances to His Grace, Jayanand, Gaurang Prabhuji, and all the assembled devotees. Do I have your permission to close the call, Prabhuji?
Yeah. One last point I will just add here is that different, over the course of time, different devotees, they will have different ways of understanding this. And I just want to make sure that we appreciate that as well, because that is why this variegatedness even exists. For example, let's say that somebody is, even when you take that 1/4, if that is the vision that one is, because there are verses to show those things, okay? If that is what one wants to see, that is also good, because they're all taking different people, they will have different stress over different aspects of different scriptures. For example, let's say those who are following Madhvacharya, they are completely in the dual, in the Bheda aspect. So they're also entirely in service of Krishna. Is there anything wrong for them to understand that everything is different from Krishna? There is nothing wrong. So they will also get liberation. But at the same time, if somebody thinks that everything is Abheda, that there is non-dual, they also will get liberation, but that is called as Sayujya Mukti. They just won't get liberation Vaikuntha because they don't have any connection with Vaikuntha. So what will they even do in Vaikuntha, right? So they get Sayujya Mukti there too. So everybody is accommodated. So that means that those who are wanting to see from in any perspective, so that is the beauty of our Achintya Bhedabheda here, that we are accommodated. If somebody wants to see even in the 1/4 when they see here, but there also you can see the beauty of Krishna, because the creation of this material world, okay, which from our eyes, it could be illusory, but creation of this material world is a beautiful act of Krishna. It is, even though he's doing it as Vishnu, he's acting as, by his glance, he created, Mahavishnu created this universe. It is such a beautiful thing. And if people want to appreciate that 1/4 creation as in their eyes, that is also beautiful, because through that they will progress towards Krishna. So people might be of different, it is not even just different levels, but they have different, everybody has a different liking, which dovetails at the end of several lifetimes. If at all they can go to Krishna, it is great. That is why even Shankaracharya, even when he starts the Bhagavad Gita, he says Narayana Para Abhyaktat, that is his beyond cosmic manifestation. At the end of all these things, he says, despite all this Vedanta, Govindam Bhaja Mudamati, please chant Govinda. Prapti Nihite Kali, at the end, Nahi Rakshati Dukrun Karani. Nothing is going to say, all this learning of the Vedanta is not going to save you. At the end, one will need Krishna. Whatever all this knowledge, at the end, quoting Shankaracharya himself, even for that Parama Advaiti or Mayavadi, or whatever he is, Brahmavadi, Mayavadi, whatever it is, even for them to get Kaivalya or Sayudsha Mukti, whatever it is, at the end, Krishna's grace is required. Mama Maya Dhuratyaya Mameve Prapadyante Maya Meta Tartarantite. That means that this material exists, Maya. It is not something that can be crossed by just self-help. It is Mameve Prapadyante Krishna. You have to buy, even for that, no matter how much effort one puts, finally Krishna's grace is required. Without that grace, how would we get it? Have we deserved it? No, because it is costless. It is costless, that costless mercy, and usually it comes only in the form of a Vaishnava devotee. The Vaishnava devotee, by some grace, some Vaishnava devotee sees us, and then he touches, okay? He gives us that glance, and then it grows. So that means that whatever is our understanding here, so it doesn't, in a sense, all these things, this lecture is good in the sense that it is perhaps maybe good in the sense that it is giving us a collective understanding of all the things, in a table format or whatever, to a brief extent. But what it does not help is that this lecture may not touch anybody's heart, because to change somebody's consciousness, it will stay as a theoretical knowledge. But what it could help is, in moments of need, sometimes the knowledge will help us to not just have blind faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but help us to have the basis. So in that sense, it will help. But if you compare it with a lecture on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which can touch somebody's heart, that lecture is by and large superior to this lecture. This seminar has an inherent fault in it. And the inherent fault in it is, it has the ability to not touch people's heart. If one is not seeing this lecture in Krishna consciousness. However, a sweet words of the Srimad Bhagavatam can transform one, which this lecture may or may not be able to do. Frankly, if we look at this purely in terms of intellectual knowledge, it has limited value. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
But this lecture is surely strengthening our faith in Krishna. So unless we have faith in Krishna, we're not going to love him. Thanks for the foundation. That's most important.
Thank you so
Prabhuji,
much.
I
for this
just
discussion.
wanted to bring one more thing to the fore. Even the Purusha Shukta says that, Padosya Jagatam and Tripadasya Amritam. Even that explains the same thing, Prabhuji. So, maybe I am not able to understand from where you're coming the perspective when you say that there is no 3/4, 1/4 and all this. Maybe that is.
Okay, Mataji, I'll put it this way to you too. Okay, if you take the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, the second canto of the Bhagavatam, if you start from the second chapters and so on, so there is a description of the Purusha Sukta there too, right? So, and there you can see that everything is part, that is the Vishishtadvaita part, and we are okay with all. There, if you see, there is a Virat Rupa, okay? But that Virat Rupa is the only form of Vishnu which is imaginary. That Virat Rupa is not the actual form. So they're like Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, Kshirodakasaya, they're all real. But you have the Virat Rupa. So that means that all what you're saying is, I'm not disagreeing, Mataji, that one quarter is the material platform for us to do all those things. I'm not disagreeing. But in the ultimate sense, there are two kinds of vision there. That is all I'm saying here. There is one kind of vision where you're able to see the beauty of creation, which is what you're able to see. You're, at least through your sentences, you're saying that. And it is very nice if a devotee is able to see the beauty of this creation, of this material cosmos, that is wonderful. But there is another vision as well. And in that vision, everything is dovetailed in that Vaikuntha. That in that sense, there is no such differences. All these 1 quarter, 3 quarter, and all doesn't exist in that sense. There are two visions. That's all I'm saying. That in one vision, you're able to see the material creation as a beautiful creation of the Godhead. But in another, there is another vision where you see that material energy has transformed to spiritual energy, and you're able to see that as all part of an integral whole of that is Vaikuntha.
Prabhuji, that is based on understanding, Prabhu. Like, for example, like you said, the second canto of Bhagavatam, it says, Rite artham yat pratiyeta, na pratiyeta chatmani. So, clearly it says what Maya is, the definition of Maya, given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, if you, like you said, if you don't dovetail it to Krishna, then you look at it as a material object.
Correct.
So that is a vision, like that's a perspective, or that's a tattva in one sense. We can say it's a tattva. So there's a difference between that, right? That's what I was trying to say. Prabhu.
You got it, Mataji. That's exactly what you're saying. Like, for instance, like a Vaishnava, when Uttama a Shuddha Bhakta, okay, a Shuddha, pure devotee, okay, it's like a gemstone. Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, okay, it's like a gemstone. That Shuddha Bhakta, for a material eyes, will look like he is drinking water. He or she, they are drinking water. They are doing mundane activities. They might be partaking in various things. They're able to see that. But from a spiritual perspective, somebody with a spiritual eyes who pluck the material eyes and put the spiritual eyes, they are not able to see that. They are able to see that it is the consciousness in which one performs. If their consciousness is in the mundane side, then they are just taking mundane water. But if their consciousness, it is the consciousness through which one is, it is all internal. Internally, how well they are, how their consciousness is developed. It's the whole process is sort of internal. From an external, if we go inward and see the internal aspect, then we can see that how the whether it is Krishna consciousness or there is material consciousness. From a Krishna consciousness, you can see that Vaikuntha is all pervading. From a material consciousness, we can see that even there we can get glimpses like this, that there is the beauty of Krishna in that material creation.
Prabhuji, like I understand what you're saying, Prabhu. All I'm saying is that that's like a perspective, right? But if we tend to discount the reality, then we will go into, we may be treading into a dangerous zone. Like if
no, Mataji, no,
take
it is
that
not a perspective and all. It is the Vedanta is saying that all there exists is Brahman. Okay, the Brahman, there is no concept of it, there is no perspective here. There is no matter in Brahman, Mataji. Brahman is all spirit. So where is the material world in that sense? Because 1/4 of, if you say that there is matter in Brahman, it is incompatible. That is why the Achintya Bhedabheda is saying that the material energy transforms into spiritual energy and in service of Krishna, right? So there are different levels of understanding. That may be true, but Brahman cannot be divided. If it is divided, the Advaita will be lost and scripture will lose its value.
Prabhuji, from what my understanding is, Prabhu, from what I've read of Prabhupada's books, I mean, once you start, generalizing everything as Brahman and not seeing that distinction where you ought to see, then you kind of, are edging on Mayavad. So that's not a good position to be in, Prabhuji. That's how I look at it. So, then everything becomes spiritual and, like some Mayavads, they give these kind of talks too, and they say, you are no different from me, we are one, and they do all kinds of atrocities.
That is not.
So we don't want to go there.
No, no, Mataji, that is not
Hare
what I'm saying, and
Krishna.
that is not true. So.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Mataji, I'm so sorry to interrupt. And thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your wonderful explanations. And I also think that is not what Prabhuji is saying.
he's making a point that is very clear. I feel that both of you are making the same point, but so with due respect to speakers, I think we have to Tadviti Pranipatena Pariprashnena. That's what will work, is my thing, Prabhuji. And thank you so much for your wonderful explanations and very patient. It's been 2 hours. You haven't even drunk a drop of water and you're explaining that. Thank you. Please forgive us, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Mataji, you want to end the call?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Greatly appreciated for your patience and very nice question answers. Looking forward to your wonderful association in the near future. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavyo namo namah. Anant koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Das Thakur ji ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Jayanand Gauranga Prabhu ji ki jai. Hare Krishna, Dana Pranams. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be ending the call here, dear devotees. Please join us soon in our next few sessions. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavyo namo namah. Anant koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace